You are listening to the In Search SEO podcast, a podcast that paints the town red with succulent search marketing insights. Today we are legit. We are going legit. White hat link building is on the table. Hayk Saakian joins the podcast to share novel ways to build links, offer value, and stay within Google's guidelines all at the same time. We are talking creative ways to build links and offer added value, how to think outside the box when it comes to link building, and how to use niche level strategies to legitimately gain links. I am your host, Mordy Oberstein, and I am not with the quietly roaring, semi-spiteful Sapir Carabello. In fact, this is an entirely different take on the In Search SEO podcast this week. We're doing a little bit of a pre-recorded intro, and then we'll go right into Hayk Saakian's tips about white hat link building. So we're not doing the first segment that we usually do, and we're not doing the news after the interview that we usually do, and we're not even doing the fun SEO send-off question that we do after that. A little bit disappointing. I understand. I'm with you. I know. Tear shed. It's okay. Again, this is a pre-recorded little intro we're doing here, and then we're moving right into Hayk Saakian's tips on link building. Don't forget, you can find the In Search SEO podcast on Stitcher, on Spotify, on SoundCloud, and wherever great podcasts are found. Of course, you can subscribe on iTunes and look for it on the Rank Ranger blog. Okay, so again, say it one more time, little bit of a different format for you today. This is all pre-recorded, and now we're going to go right into white hat link building, how it's all possible, how to get creative. Here's Hayk Saakian.
Here comes another search marketing expert. It's time for an In Search interview.
This is another In Search SEO podcast interview session. Joining us today is a real techie. He does not play one on TV. He's actually a real genuine software developer and entrepreneur, and he does it all with the power of code. He's one of those people who can tell you which iPhone case is the sturdiest and which robot garden weeder is the weediest of them all. He is Hayk Saakian. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you, Morty. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So you are the CTO and co-founder of Logic Inbound, and you also write reviews of tech products. How did that happen?
Well, it's not that complicated of a story. Basically, we started an agency about 5 years ago, focused on SEO. And in the last couple of years, I was really thinking, we're doing a lot of work with clients, building up their websites, but clients come and go over the years. And I realized you really got to build up some of your own assets, because you're probably the last person that's going to fire yourself. Worst comes to worst. So that was really my thinking of it. And there's also, with SEO, there's some things you probably don't want to risk on a client's website that, they really screw up. You don't want Google to ban your client or something just because you tried something, just to see how it works. So I use it as kind of a playground for my own SEO strategies without worrying about getting an angry phone call at 4 a.m.
Got it. So I have burning question, which is the best weeding robot? Because that is one of the reviews you have. I checked it out.
Yeah, well, funny enough, if you know what a Roomba is, basically there's these robots now that are basically like Roombas for your lawn. You just stick them out there and then they sweep up. They don't sweep. They're like those hedge trimmers. They cut down weeds as they sprout up. I just reviewed one recently. It's called the Turtle weeding robot. And funny enough, someone actually lifted it right off our lawn and stole it a couple weeks ago. So
seriously?
They're in hot demand. Yeah, no joke.
Wow. So, that's like insane. That's horrible. First off, who does that? Why would you do that?
Well,
and that's just bizarre. Horrible.
Works so well.
Does it have GPS?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. It's pretty low tech. It's designed to be kind of rugged, and it's actually solar powered, so you don't have to really charge it. You can just stick it out. That's the thing, right? The idea is you can just stick it out there, and it does its own thing.
Oh, that's totally awesome. Okay.
Maybe an oversight. If you have a Roomba indoors, no one's going to be breaking
right. No one's but, come back with my weeding robot, you jackass.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we're going to go from weeding robots to links. So we were talking, weeks and weeks ago, we were Sunday, what should we talk about on this podcast? You want to talk about links? I'm like, I get very cautious when a guest says, hey, let's talk about links, because I don't want to go down that black hat rabbit hole. And you're like, no. This is white hat link building tactics that are natural and that work. And I'm like, this is the white whale of the SEO industry. I don't believe you.
Mm-hmm.
but you say you have something. How to build links, white hat, natural. Run this through for me, because I'm beside myself in skepticism. How does this work?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll kind of say the key concept that I want really most people to take away from this is that one size fits all link building doesn't really work that well. It can work, but it typically takes a lot more time, typically takes a lot more effort. And I made the same mistake. My personal background is in software development and creating programs. And I always think about everything like a system. How can I scale things, automate things? Because if it's more repetitive, then you can have someone who's less experienced do it and do it more quickly, etc.
Hence the email. Hello, friend. I noticed your post on. I would love to connect with you, friend. So yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So if you talk to any SEO, they can probably repeat that script to you verbatim.
Right.
Because we all get that script multiple times a day for our own website and I'm sure many clients. So the whole point of the kind of what I wanted to talk about today is how do you look different than 95% of those other people asking for a link, right? Because the thing you have to separate is your goal at the end of the day, your kind of thought process is I want to gain links. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the first thing you should talk to somebody about is, can you link to me, right? Another simple way to approach it would be to think, how can I collaborate with someone so that a link is an incidental consequence of that outcome.
Yeah, and that's where it's natural, right? Because you have a relationship, and it kind of makes sense.
Right. So, and it's not like there's one of the things that I don't like is some people pretend like there's all these secrets and things, and really, from my point of view, there's not really a secret. If you look around and you really think about it, a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be really obvious in hindsight. But the key thing is that 95% of people don't do it, either because it doesn't fit their cookie cutter strategy, or it might not be relevant. Most of the ideas or examples I'll mention probably are not going to be relevant to most people. And most people aren't going to be able to implement all of them because they're not contradictory, but they don't necessarily make sense. Right. And so the whole point is really just to get you thinking. So the question that I like to ask is how can I look different from 95% of the generic outreach emails that other people send? And then what is a unique value that me or my client can offer that others can't offer, that they literally can't do even if they wanted to, right? That's the basic idea.
So I love this stuff, right? I'd rather go into a strategy. It's like teaching somebody to fish versus just giving them a fish.
Mm-hmm.
So you run this to me. You said it makes a lot of sense, right? Different vertical, different topic, different whatever it is. You have to have a different approach. Can you give me two examples or one example of two different varieties of how you would go about link building for two different types of content?
Yeah, for sure. So let me give you two examples that are not completely, like pretty far from each other and that wouldn't really work for the same client. So one example I'll use, because it's for my own site, I don't have to reveal anything that could be secret, but my own site, I write reviews for different tech products and things like that. So what I realized is that some of these companies that sell products online, e-commerce sites, they will link to other websites that reviewed their product because they want to show that their product is good, that people are saying good things about it, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was thinking, well, I review products. Why don't they link to me? Right. So I was thinking, okay, how can we create a system for me to find those websites that are e-commerce, some sort of product that I would want to review. And if I reach out to them and they're already linking to other review sites, and there's a good chance that if I write a review that's helpful to readers and, able to work with them if there's issues, things like that, then, maybe they would link to my site too. So the whole concept there is basically I use tools like Ahrefs and others to find e-commerce sites that are linking to review sites, because I know a lot of the review sites in the industry. So I look at their backlinks and look at which ones are coming from e-commerce sites. And then I basically reach out to the e-commerce site. I'm not even talking about a link in the first email. I'm just reaching out to an audience that I know is already likely to link. And I'm just talking to them about, I'd like to review your product. I think it's really interesting. I'm working on a list of the best, that's how a lot of the ones you saw on my site, like the one we talked about, the weeding robot, I was interested in robots and things like that. So I was like, okay, what are the sites that sell different kinds of robots that link to review sites? This was one of them. So I reached out to them and said, hey, can I review your product? And, they said, okay, sure. So that's a good one example here. But another example that I couldn't do at all, but works for one of our clients, is what I like to call like a proofreading link building strategy. So if you have a doctor or a lawyer or some other licensed professional, what you might have noticed is on websites like Healthline, it will have an article like, 10 best ways to lose weight or something. And at the top, it'll say, this was, proofread by such and such doctor, etc.
The hottest thing in SEO right now. Boost your EAT with a medical review.
Exactly. So you can reach out to healthcare websites, right? Sites that talk about health topics, and offer to proofread them with one of your clients who's a doctor. Really, it doesn't take that long to proofread an article. They can just read it over, give you some bullet points in terms of here are the things that need to be fixed. And then if you're managing it for a client, you can do the Grammarly and like basic stuff. You don't need to be like a medical expert to call out a typo, right?
So I'm wondering, do it in the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
The review site, you're doing the reviews. People are going to love that review. They're going to link to you. But let's say you're the product site and you want people to link to your product. And I always find that side's like the harder side. Or you're...
Yeah, funny enough, you can do pretty much the same strategy in reverse, right? Because since I've been doing this outbound effort, I've actually had companies reach out to me and say, hey, we want to send you our product to write a review, right? And you can do the same thing if you have an e-commerce site. You look for, reviewers who link to e-commerce sites, not just because there's a lot of review sites that are just basically Amazon affiliate sites. They don't link out to anything. But you want to look for, review sites that actually do link out to e-commerce sites and then offer to send them, right? What can you do? Because here it goes back to my question, right? What can you do that's different than 95% of the generic outreach emails, right? Your e-commerce site, you make presumably a product that, maybe there's other people in your industry, but there's not 1,000 people that make the same product, most likely.
Right.
Right. So you can send, offer to send that to different people. And all you have to ask for is a review, right? So a lot, just like any kind of outreach, of course, a lot of percentage of people aren't going to respond, but it's a unique strategy that I think can work pretty well. And in some cases, they might ask for like an advertising fee or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're reaching out to the right people, like I said, you pre-vet your list, people that already linked to them.
So note, if you're one of these sites who are taking in the product, you do have to disclose that you got the free product. Otherwise, Google will theoretically penalize you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, do that. Don't forget that part. Yeah. Like, you have to say, hey, I got a free product. And which is fine. I mean, I don't think most people will look at the review like, yeah, of course they sent you the product because they want the review. When they say that you have to mail it back afterwards, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that one thing to recognize is there's more to it than just the fact that you have a link, right? A lot of these sites, if you reach out to more prominent ones or even YouTubers, right? Just because the link is no follow or marked a certain way, is not necessarily the end of the world. Because these people are influencers on buying decisions, right?
Yeah, well, SEO is not the be-all, end-all of marketing. Sorry to say that to all the SEOs listening to this SEO podcast.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of those processes might work the same way because ultimately, at least for me, when I'm working with clients, we do some client SEO. My goal is to grow the client's revenue, right? And so sometimes these different strategies, even though they don't result in a, ideal link, they do result in sales and referral traffic.
Right.
So like in this specific example, if you reach out to a reviewer, you can check on Google who ranks for different keywords, right? If they're ranking number one for like best robots for lawn care or something, right? You can assume they're getting some traffic and you can verify that with Ahrefs. Even if they mark your link, no credibility, no follow, definitely no SEO value, right? You're going to have people clicking through those articles and actually getting sales. So
yeah, well, most definitely.
That's a simple suggestion for a review site. Another one that's very simple that most people can't replicate is you can list like a really basic or like a really entry level coupon on your site. It's basically to bait out all the aggregators. There's a lot of coupon aggregator sites out there.
Yeah, Retail Me or Not, whatever it is. Yeah.
There's thousands of them, right? And so what you can do is basically, a lot of companies do this now. You can put a page on your site that's, just optimized for brand name coupons and then have very kind of simple coupon codes, and thinking in terms of an e-commerce company, there's always add-on the things you can do for coupon codes that don't really cost you a lot, but do increase the value of the product. For example, I'm just working on the strategy for a local flower shop. They sell online, so they're, with COVID and things like that, they need to sell online. And what they could do is they could offer like a coupon for free bow or something, or like a special design on your flowers, right? And the point is that it doesn't have to be a coupon that's designed to really sell customers and really convert people and incentivize them to do it. But really, you're doing it to bait these coupon sites into, because they don't have like a person like evaluating, should we include this coupon in our aggregator? No, they're really just scraping some sort of standard format, and posting it on their site. And presumably, as long as the coupon actually works, you're doing it legitimately, then that's another unique way.
That's very unique. I never thought. That's amazing. It's a good idea.
So.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions I want to ask you about what you said so far, but the examples you've given are in a way fascinating. Do you have another one in your deck of
Yeah, I can give you one I just thought of actually, because thinking in terms of e-commerce, because I was thinking to myself, like, would I do this if a company actually did this? And I feel like I would. A simple thing you could do is, and this would work for Amazon review sites as well, like people that do the same kind of thing that I do. If you email people like me and you say, hey, I'm a company that makes a product you already reviewed on your site, we'd like to give your readers an extra special discount or coupon or offer, just put the code and the link in there. Would you please do it? Or, you could workshop it a little bit in terms of copywriting, but that seems like a pretty simple value proposition that I would at least, I might not necessarily say like just yes and immediately do it, but I would entertain the conversation and see if we can work something out. Just because that's another simple way that, actually justifies the link, right? If you click this link, you get a special deal that you can't just get by clicking it on Amazon. Okay, now it makes sense why you would want to have it on there.
So I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm wondering, okay, so what do you do? Are you up at night in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, what kind of interesting and creative ways can I build links that are not completely spammy? Like, I'm really asking, how do you approach this? Like, what's your mentality?
So my mentality is always to think about it from like a more restricted perspective in terms of what can I do with this client that won't work on other clients, or that what can I do with this project that won't work on other projects, right? You're basically deliberately looking for ideas that don't scale, because
nice. The total opposite of what everybody's trying to do, not scale.
Yeah, because that'll help you identify. The constraints are basically what breeds creativity. If you think about it like a painter or whatever, you have a specific canvas, right? That's all the space that you've got, right? So you have to think about, like, what are you putting on there? What are you specifically not putting on there, right? To create the best work of art, right? I'm not saying link building is painting paintings, but it's the same mental concept in terms of restricting what you can work with to just what would be unique for this specific project.
Yeah, that's an amazing point.
Yeah, and I'm not, inventing all this stuff on my own. I read a lot of content. I consume a lot of content on link building. So just to give you some specific examples, you could look at that are a little wider, but they don't necessarily work for everybody. There's a concept called audio link building, where you basically reach out to bloggers and offer to transcribe their article, in exchange for, sharing the embed code on their page. That one was from a guy named Julian.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's awesome. That's a nice one. Sorry, I didn't catch his name. I apologize. I was talking over you.
Yeah, Julian Goldie on YouTube. He's a YouTuber, relatively new channel. But I've talked to the guy a few times, and he came up with the strategy. Another one I just learned recently, this one is probably more relevant for like a B2B type of client, what I would call testimonial link building. This is basically where there's two prongs to it. One is with existing relationships. You basically reach out to every SaaS tool, every vendor that you have, and offer to write a testimonial for them, but, as long as they can put it on their website and share the source, which is you. So that's a pretty simple one. And then the other side to it, I think a lot of people don't consider, is proactively looking for consultants and people you can hire for an hour or two, that are also up your alley. So I got this idea from a book called Link Building Demystified by Matt McClear. I just read it over the weekend on Audible.
Nice.
But, there's a lot of these, little unique strategies you can kind of pick and choose and build up your toolbox. And then whatever makes sense for a specific client, or you can put a unique twist on it.
Are you let's say the review, right? I'm sorry, the testimonial rather. Are
Yeah.
you specifically asking, hey, is this going to be a no follow link?
No, I wouldn't even ask, just because on average, most people, unless you're working, the thing is with most people, it's only really in the SEO industry that people think, like, oh, is it going to be no follow, if you
Right.
follow? Like if you're working in most industries,
That is
most people
linking.
don't really think about it. And if you just, you just ask, hey, can you please link to the source? 8 out of 10 times it'll be a do follow link. And sure, you'll get a couple no follows in there, but I wouldn't sweat them, because really,
Yeah.
the mindset that I think most people need to have on this is you're really relationship building, right? Because maybe if their first link is a no follow, that doesn't mean this person is dead to you, right? You can work
Yeah.
with them on future content, continue developing that,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then eventually you can get work on something that would end up being a follow link.
So before I get into this fun little game that I have with you, the burning question the one burning question that I have left is many burning questions, but the burning question. So you're taking all these tips, you're finding a really unique opportunity. You're really thinking, okay, where's my unique, where's my in? Where's my unique in with this particular vertical or this particular type of site, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with the reviews, right? You're reaching out to you want someone to review your product. You'll mail them your product, you'll give them a free subscription to your product, whatever it is. And they're a big site and they've got hundreds of these requests coming in. How do you
Right.
stand out in the request itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would take a step back and really think about it. If the person you're reaching out to is already getting, 95%, like if they're already getting a lot of these requests, I would really study, are they converting on any of these requests? Meaning, do you see them do they talk about how they work with, companies that make products and actually create content around them, right? So an example would be like a YouTuber that I watch is called MKBHD. And I know that he worked with different companies because he talked about how, he worked with Tesla on this thing, or he got a review copy from Apple on this thing, right? So you know that this person does actually work with these types of relationships and opportunities. If you know that they do, then try to look for what's the pattern, like what do they seem to like and what do they don't like? Do they work with small companies ever, right? Some of these big news sites, they just, don't even bother, right?
Right.
So you have to
Yeah.
make sure you're reaching out. So it's kind of funny that the best script writing happens in the list building stuff before you even write a script, right? Are you reaching out to people that are likely to respond to this script? And if the answer is no, then you either need to change your
Right.
script or build a different list.
Yeah. Or just send it anyway, right? No, I'm joking. Okay. So
Yeah.
with that, we can dig into this for a really long time, but I don't have a really long time.
Sure.
I have this little fun little thing that I do. I call it Optimize It or Disavow It. It's where I give you two either really good options and you're stuck choosing one good option over another good option, or, as in this case, two really, really crappy options, and you're stuck with the uncomfortable notion of choosing one really crappy option over another really crappy option. So this is the Hayk Saakian version of Optimize It or Disavow It. Your choices are, when building links, would you either reach out to people on LinkedIn telling them that you could offer them a great guest posting, or would you reach out to some old lady via email promising them money for every link they put up on their website? Both horrible, horrible options. Which one would you do?
I'll say I'd have to do the LinkedIn option just because it just goes back to what I said. If you build the right list that is more likely to accept, then it could actually work. Versus the second one, kind of, kind
Too
of
small of a
dead end, really.
demographic, right? I don't know any old ladies who are running websites, but if they were,
I mean, I know a few, but yeah, you're gonna have a harder time there. in my
right?
opinion.
Okay, so
Yep.
Hayk, I appreciate this. I do not want to receive anything from you in my LinkedIn box asking for a link, please. Though I kind of doubt that I'll get that from you. And I really appreciate you coming on. This is really interesting. The examples were amazing and it's super actionable.
Yeah, happy to help. One kind of quick thing to leave people with, just because I know it's something, I don't know if I fully answered this last time, you're asking, what could you offer in a script that would make you stand out?
Mm-hmm.
And this is another area where I think you really need to think uniquely about what you do. So specific examples that don't really cost anything to do, but are hugely valuable to the person is introductions to key contacts, right? If you're talking to a reviewer, right, maybe you know the guy at the larger company that they would want to know.
Oh,
and
cool.
You could offer them an introduction, right?
That's nice.
Another thing a lot of consultants can do is you can offer to teach them something, teach them about something that they care about. So, for example, this is something that I could even do, right? If I'm reaching out to other reviewers that I want to collaborate with, I could offer to do some training or coaching on SEO, right? It's going to take maybe an hour or two of my time. But the point is that the return on that can be pretty high if I'm talking to the right people.
Awesome.
And then there's a few kind of generic ones, right? Don't offer a shout out or something on your Facebook group if there's only 2 people in your Facebook group. Or, like I mentioned in your newsletter, if there's only 1 person in your newsletter, right? You want to be able to, really, if you have those things, mention the numbers, right? You could say, hey, I want to promote your product or whatever in my newsletter of 10,000 people. Now you have an interesting pitch, right? So
that's awesome. I appreciate you coming back to that. I really do. That was awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right. Stay well. Stay inside because we're still in COVID while we're recording this. And thanks for the link building tips, man.
Thank you.
You got it.
Pleasure.
All right, and that will do it for today's episode of the In Search SEO podcast. Check out a new episode of the In Search SEO podcast next Tuesday as Jason Dodge joins us to talk about Amazon targeting small businesses with search ads.